Bé, bona tarda. It's an honor to have this opportunity to introduce Caroline Ducourreau, our speaker today, who is going to talk us about this conference exhibiting anatomy in Montpellier, a work still in progress. Well, I'm going to introduce her first, and I will tell some features about her activities and so on. Well, she has a degree in history and history of art, and also a postgraduate. She has also a postgraduate expertise in monuments historiques at the Institut National du Patrimoine. She has been working as curator first in Historic Heritage Administration, then in a National Museum of Decorative Arts, and since the year 2013 until now in the University of Montpellier. First as curator of anatomical collections, and since the year 2015 as directrice de la culture scientifique et du patrimoine historique. In this period, she has given lectures. She has participated in courses and written an amount of articles, catalogs, and book chapters on anatomical collections, waxworks, human remains, and curatorial affairs. Well, I would like to say that we in this case, the organizers of this cycle of lost objects, Pepe Pardo and me, we met her in the year 2015 in Louvain, Belgique, in Lovaina, in the conference Bodies Beyond Borders, where she lectured on the nomadic anatomy or collection of Le Docteur Spitzner. Well, so Caroline Ducourreau has played a key role in this amazing period in which the donation, as she will explain later, of Paris medical collections, making Montpellier with more than 30,000 classified objects, one of the best and major anatomical collections in the world. I think that this is very important. It's an amount of items really impressive, and just the people who cares this kind of collections, this kind of materials, to understand this amount of material, well, I think is something that we must consider. Well, I think that the acceptance of this donation it honors the University of Montpellier, that is also taking profit of the celebration of its 800 years in 2020, this year, and as a good occasion to develop new museographic projects in the old School of Medicine, in the ancient building of the Faculty of Medicine. Well, as you will see, and the name of the introduction of the title of this conference, "Work Still in Progress." Well, it's a fact, and after the donation of these collections and adding to the amazing collection of anatomical items of Montpellier, more than 6,000 new pieces. Well, I think that from the point of view not only of the University of Montpellier, which is something that I think that is important, because they have this interest in the preservation, and also in the exhibition and curatorial consideration of this material. It's important, but also in the part of the work of these people, curators and directors of these kind of institutions, because, well, they have in mind not only this curatorial work, but also the interest of exhibit and use in these kind of materials from different point of views. For instance, from the didactic point of view, I mean the use of these kind of collections in order to explain the history of medicine, and that means research, and that means also communication and the introduction of the material culture of medicine into the sources of historians of medicine. Well, I think that this is a great opportunity to know also a collection that is really close to Barcelona. Is as you know, is a travel by train
3 hours.
3 hours, and well, not only a very nice city, but also a wonderful collection. So for all of this, I think that we are very honored that you have visited us. And well, now it's your time to speak, and thanks very much.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I would like to thank the Societat Catalana d'Historia de la Ciència y de la Tècnica and Alphonse Sarsoso and José Pardo Tomás for inviting me tonight to talk about the collections of Montpellier. And I would like to apologize for my bad English, so I will read my paper in order to be understood, and then I will answer your questions, if I can. So, exhibiting anatomy in Montpellier, a work still in progress. This conference will present the issues about anatomical collections in the Faculty of Medicine of Montpellier. After an introduction about the context of all the university collections, I will explain the history of the anatomical collections, then the situation today, with a focus on the development of the last 5 years, and at last expose the prospects in the context of global reorganization of the historical building of the faculty, which allows new opportunities of museographic display. So that's my summary. I would like to introduce some historical points of reference. The Faculty of Medicine was created in the 13th century. As Alphonse said, we are celebrate in 2020 the 8th centenary of the Faculty of Medicine. The Botanical Garden was created at the end of 16th. It was the first botanical garden in France, before Paris. It was created in Montpellier. And then at the beginning of the 19th century, were created the faculties of pharmacy and sciences. And the Faculty of Sciences was with 7 shares, mathematics, astronomy, physics, chemistry, botany, zoology, mineralogy. So it's clear that we are faced to teaching and research collections and scientific collections. A short typology of the collections of the University of Montpellier. From the left to right and from above to bottom. So top left, we have the paleontology collection with 150,000 items. The mineralogy with 3,000 samples. The zoology, around 8,000 items. The physics, 300 instruments. The contemporary scientific and technical collections, around 1,000 items. And astronomy, 60 items. And then the drugs collection of the Faculty of Pharmacy inhabits around 10,000 items. The herbarium is more than 3 million of samples. It's the second or the third in France by the volume and the quantity. This is the Botanical Garden. We have also paintings, sculptures, decorative arts, around 650 items. We have an ethnological collection 120 items from Oceania. And in the center, it's a photo from the AG Museum. It's a museum with 1,000 drawings and 5,000 prints. So you can observe that the collections are very huge, and then there are the anatomical collections preserved in the old building of the Faculty of Medicine. On the top left, you have a panoramic view of the old building, nearby the cathedral at right side, and the botanical garden at left side. And then at top right, you have the entry of the old building, and the cathedral, I don't know if you see, is in the background. On the bottom left, you have the Anatomy Theater, built at the beginning of the 19th century, and on the background, you have the cathedral. And on the bottom right, you have what we call la salle des actes, the room where students present nowadays their doctoral diploma. She was restored in 2017. I will explain that afterwards. So, the anatomical collections. There are two collections, the Anatomy Conservatory from Montpellier, and then the former Parisian Delmas or Villarouvière museums with the Spitzner collection. So let's begin with the Anatomical Museum of Montpellier. The beginnings of the anatomy collection of Montpellier date from the extreme end of the 18th century. Its first core is indeed directly derived from the revolutionary reforms. Ideas related to a new way of teaching medicine, developed in the 18th century in the context of Enlightenment, led to its profound restructuring during the last year of the Revolution. This renovation of teaching passed through the constitution of anatomical collection. The National Convention, created in 1794, created 3 schools of health in Paris, Strasbourg, and Montpellier. In 1795, the School of Health of Montpellier was settled down in the former monastery college Saint-Benoît, the old building, which became from the Renaissance the palace of the bishop. So 3 uses for this building. The institutional reform of the convention, which brought together the future doctors and surgeons in one place, was accompanied by a desire to improve teaching by giving bigger space to practical studies, with the creation in each of these schools of a conservatory consisting of an anatomy cabinet, surgical instruments, and a collection of natural medical history. A curator responsible for this collection was also appointed to perform demonstration of drugs and surgical instruments. So, when the conservatory was created at the end of the 18th century, the collection was almost non-existent, and successive curators took care of its progressive enrichment. And then the collection became too big for the room, they were located in, and they need more space, and they built at the mid-19th a new gallery. That's the gallery. Oh, I go back. The anatomical collection of Montpellier is sheltered today in the gallery built for this purpose in 1851. The Conservatory of Anatomy presents, in a majestic framework with colonnades and under paintings of famous doctors and allegories of sciences, a succession of windows showing the description of the human body in detail, as well as its pathologies. Alors, I go there. Yes. The collection is logically centered around the study of human anatomy, normal and pathological. This main theme is completed by series relating to comparative anatomy and zoology on the one hand, and archaeology and physical anthropology on the other hand. And the preserved pieces are either artificial in wax, plaster, or paper pulp, papier-mâché, or natural. The human remains represent almost half of the collection and have different aspects: dry or fluid anatomical preparation, osteology, histological sections. And I come back, sorry. The gallery, with an area of more than 500 square meters, consists of glazed wall cabinets designed from the beginning, display cabinets and some additional windows added later to accompany the growth of the collection. Despite an apparent disorder due to the accumulation of many pieces in the windows, and some displacement or additions of sometimes inconsistent objects within the same showcase, the collection follows a generally methodical classification related to its teaching. Some sets of human remains do not directly concern the anatomy, but were nevertheless given to the conservatory, considered in a way as a museum dealing with the sciences of man in their entirety, anthropology, archaeology, for example, with especially Egyptian mummies and Ganche mummies too. Sorry. In addition to the traditional methods of acquisition, by purchase or donation, there is a specificity here of the Anatomy Conservatory. Linked to teaching, the conservatory received pieces produced as part of its activity. The school decided, for example, that students wishing to register for the final exams should perform an anatomy piece. Mostly, it is actually the teaching staff who logically participated mainly in the enrichment of the conservatory, not only the anatomy teachers, but also their management team. The competitions exam for the different jobs generated a considerable emulation between the candidates who had to produce several dozen pieces of anatomy, human and comparative, in order to be evaluated. These anatomy pieces from the competitions are well represented in the windows of the conservatory. Here you have an example of a label of an object, and you can see it's the competition exam for it's okay. For an exam, adjuva is the first level of helping in anatomy laboratory. And you can see it's interesting for us because we have what is it? It's a heart in terre cuite. It's a sculpture. It's not real. The date of the exam and the name of the person who made it. And it's interesting here because it's Gillis, it's the last curator of the conservatory. So these labels are very important for us to know better the collection. The collection also benefited from numerous donations from surgeons, anatomy, pathology, or clinic teachers. For example, Professor Jules Mouret gave a set of bones and anatomical preparation related to the skull, enhanced with colors to highlight the different bones, vascular and nervous relationships. This series corresponds to the discipline he taught in the 1920s, otolaryngology. I would like to emphasize this example, which explains the strong links between research, teaching, and the anatomical collection primarily. Okay. So the collection of the Anatomy Conservatory of the Faculty of Medicine of Montpellier is a remarkable testimony to the history and practices of teaching anatomy in the 19th and early 20th century, before the development of new technologies of investigation of the human body and the development of the anatomy of the living. It is therefore worth emphasizing the educational destination of this collection and the strong link it maintains with the research and teaching of its time. The constitution and enrichment of this collection, collectively by students and teachers, and for students, have also probably contributed to strengthening the identity of the community of physicians in Montpellier. Let's talk about the other collections, the Delmas-Orfila-Rouvière Museum. The former Delmas-Orfila-Rouvière museums, coming from the University Paris 5 Descartes, and including more than 7,000 items, have recently come to increase this collection, thanks to a donation in 2012. The University of Montpellier is now equipped with a first-rate anatomical ensemble classified as a historic monument. These collections bear the name of Matteo Orfila, who founded the museum in Paris in 1844, Henri Rouvière and André Delmas, who continued the work of Orfila by preserving and enriching the collection of origin. The Museum of the School of Medicine in Paris dates from the French Revolution, as in Montpellier. Honoré Fragonard was appointed director of anatomical work and created the first fund of the museum, composed by many anatomical preparations. The Parisian Museum, however, took off a few decades later, thanks to the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Matteo Orfila, who founded the new museum, rich in collections of comparative anatomy. This museum was officially inaugurated in 1847 under the name of Orfila Museum. The museum lost its influence during the first half of the 20th century. In 1947, on the occasion of the construction of the new Faculty of Medicine of Paris, you see it on the left side, it was decided to give an important place to the collections within the Department of Anatomy. The museum is enriched by André Delmas, Director of Post-War Anatomical Work, and then Dean of the Faculty of Medicine. The Parisian collection, formerly exhibited in the Faculty of Medicine, was put in boxes in storage in 2005. Yes. The reception of the collection in the historic building of the Faculty of Medicine of Montpellier wasn't done without difficulty, because it is an old building with vacant spaces that are not well adapted and require great development work. And as you see on the right side, you can guess there is an object inside the box. It's a gorilla made by Ozu. It's the gorilla in paper pulp. And he came to the exhibition room through an elevator at the second floor, because it was the only way to go there. It's just an example of the difficulties we had to do the exhibition room. And I will try to explain you after. Okay. With these photos, you can see we changed a classroom, traditional classroom, in an exhibition room. You can see at the bottom the room in between, with a new painting on the walls, and some stuff at the center for welcoming the showcases. The goal, I show you the new room with the pieces inside. The goal was to quickly restore a general vision of this collection, not presented to the public for 10 years. The first sequence on the top left, the first sequence evokes the academic collection, university collection, pedagogical one. The second, bottom right, exposes the most prestigious elements of the Fairground Museum of Dr. Spitzner. Founded mid-19th century by Pierre Spitzner, known as Dr. Spitzner, The great anatomical and ethnological museum first settled in Paris, like many other museums of the same type, in the context of spare time activities development. These museums differed from the university educational museums in their destination and the type of their audience. Unlike the latter, they were destined to reach the general public of the fairgrounds as a for-profit object of attraction, which explains the spectacular nature of some of their pieces, such as the wax recumbent sculpture. However, they didn't lose entirely their pedagogical vocation, but at the price of a moralizing retranslation, as evidenced by the collections of social hygiene, illustrating the bad consequences of alcohol or venereal diseases. The museum traveled throughout Europe from the end of the 19th century and had a remarkable longevity, but fell into oblivion in the 1960s. It was rediscovered in the 1970s, then bought by a pharmaceutical group in the 1980s, which restored it and gave it to the French Society of Anatomy. Exhibited since in the Delmas or Filarouvière museums, he was part of the donation granted to the University of Montpellier. We have the chance, we are lucky to have this donation, but as I will explain to you, it is also a huge responsibility to preserve that. This new room was inaugurated in November 2014. But unfortunately, it only presents about 50 objects among the 7,000 in the Paris collection because of the lack of space. Sorry? So I will talk now about recent activities, and which are classically restoration, preservation, restoration, inventory and research, study of the collections, public access and heritage enhancement. That these are our aims. So, I will begin with the restorations. And here I would like to underline the leading role of the administration of the Ministry of Culture, which protected the collection with heritage law. Hélène Palousier did a great things to preserve this collection and protect with the law. That allowed afterwards the first actions in preserving, studying and restoring the items. For example, here, you have a prestigious series of waxes realized by the artist anatomist Felice Fontana from Florence around 1800. And Hélène Palousier rediscovered the 40 pieces of Fontana and then was at the beginning of the restoration. We have here 40 replicas of the Museum of La Specola in Florence, thanks to the beginning of the history of the Conservatory of Anatomy, and the big role played by a person called Jean-Antoine Chaptal. Chaptal was a scientist. He studied in Montpellier before the revolution, and then during the revolution he was very influent, and then became the Minister of Internal Affairs of Bonaparte, and he wanted to thank his school, and then thanks to him these 40 pieces came to Montpellier. So it's the most prestigious part of the collection. I would like to show you another example of restoration. The great Écorché by Louis Ozou in paper pulp. I don't know if you know Louis Ozou. Yes, you know, but maybe not. No. So Louis Ozou was a physician of the 19th century, but he didn't practice medicine and developed a manufacture of pedagogical models in paper pulp. in Normandy, in France. And he succeeded scientifically and economically. The Ozu items are sold all over the world. You can find them in Chile, Japan, USA, all over the world. And in Montpellier, we have in the conservatory collection, in the anatomical collection, we have 100 pieces of Ozu. And one of the most beautiful is the great écorché. He was in bad condition because nobody was interested in that écorché. And then we exhibited it in an exhibition, and it was to make information and communicate around the piece. And then afterwards, we succeeded in finding the budget to do the restoration. It was very long and difficult and subtle restoration with, on the left side, you can see all the parts restored. On the center of the slide, you can see radiology pictures. We had a partnership with a radiologist, medicine there, to do photos of inside to know better about the structure of the sculpture and to know better what were his problems because he had a broken leg. So we did all that, and then afterwards, at the right side, you can see it now in a showcase located in the anatomical amphitheatrum. So it's like a symbol of the anatomical collections, and it's important to exhibit this symbol in the theater, where there are congresses, lessons, and so on. Even if people can't visit all the time the collections, they can see the écorché. Third and last example of restoration. In 2017, as I said, the Salle des Actes was restored. It was the painting of the wall. The Faculty of Medicine wanted to renove the painting of the wall, but the consequence was that my team and I, we had to put down 100 paintings and 8 or 10 sculptures. It was a huge operation for us, and with many steps, packaging, work of art, dust removal, treatment against insects, photographies, database and inventory. And moreover, we succeeded in convincing the faculty of restoring 4 paintings. Because they were at 8 meters high, and I said, when we put them back, we can't do that before 50 years. So it's now or never. And you can see details from put paintings down, the storage, and after renovation. So our activity is based on inventory to know better about the collections. So here you can see a teacher, an anthropologist, with a PhD students from the University of Aix-Marseille. And they study all pathologies, among them syphilis, and they are updating diagnosis. Donc, for us, it's very interesting to have specialists because we are not physicians, and we don't know everything. We don't know every part of the collection particularly. We have to do partnerships. And for example, nowadays we have a partnership with a a PhD student in history of art of the University of Aix-Marseille, who is studying Spitzner Museum. So maybe in a few years, we will have very, very interesting work about Spitzner. And we are very excited by that. And also research in conservation. Nowadays, we are in partnership with a PhD student from the School of Fine Arts of Dresden in Germany, whose subject is about manufacturing technology and the conservation of vascular injection preparations from the 18th and 19th century. Very small, very delicate subjects, and but it would be very interesting for us to know better about dry preparations. And he's studying, his project is about many collections in Europe. We have 2 examples from our collections, but he travels all over Europe to analyze the techniques of preparation. So I think it would be in few years a great work, a great study. So that's the basis of the work. But how do we manage to share this collection with the public? It's a great deal. Nowadays, this collection has certainly lost its value of primary use, pedagogical collection for students in medicine, but retains an exceptional heritage value. The medical students it was destined to spend there only occasionally. On the other hand, the Conservatory of Anatomy now attracts a wider audience of adults, students in the humanities or visual arts, or high school students, all interested in the extremely original dimension of this collection, which is thus seen every year by several thousand people during the European Heritage Days. It's 2 days in the year, and it's more than 5,000 visitors per 2 days. And the emphasis is now, as far as possible, on mediation, which is provided by the guides of the Montpellier Tourist Office, trained for this purpose, and by the university team. You can see the crowd on the bottom, no, on the top left, the crowd during Heritage Days. They make the line during hours to see the conservatory. And on the bottom right, an original event. It was drawing workshops for students. That's good. So different ways to visit. During Heritage Days, it's open visit, free visit. And during the other days, it's only guided visits, thanks to an agreement with the tourist office. Or guided visit by us, and you see the numbers of visitors. It's not enough, of course. So, the University of Montpellier has a team about conservation and about scientific culture, yes, but no traditional mediation service, as in museums. So we have found these solutions with heritage laws, tourist office, and us when we can, when we have time to. But we need to know better our public and its expectations of visit. So we created a survey given to visitors during 2 months in 2016, thanks to a student in tourism studies in internship, and with the cooperation of the tourist office. We obtained more than 200 answered questionnaires, which describe the types of visitors and their perception of the collection. So, who are the visitors? More women than men, young, very French, and very from Montpellier. And many are interested in cultural events or cultural visits, as you can see here, the person. And here is the perception of the anatomical collections. I was afraid, and I am now afraid of the image of Museum of Horrors of this anatomical collection. Because some people want to visit it to be afraid or to see disgusting things. And our aim is to explain that it isn't that, but it is a pedagogical collection. So I was surprised when I read the numbers, and I saw that only 16% considered the conservatory as a museum of horrors. I thought it was very much bigger. And then the visitors are, of course, often satisfied. It's a good thing for us. And then we put questions about not only satisfaction or not, but what kind of impress do you have? And they are very impressed and curious. So it's positive feelings. And I was happy to see that people weren't so shocked or uncomfortable by seeing this collection. So, what the visitors do and don't appreciate. In green, they appreciate. And in the orange, they don't. So, they appreciate real anatomy, real human anatomy, and most of all, the teratology. Despite of explanations about many other themes in the collection, when we guide tours and groups, we explain not only teratology, but many showcases. But the teratology, I don't know if everyone knows what is it, teratology, okay, is very appreciated. And then what they don't is teratology too. So teratology is a collection which makes a debate, of course. And maybe it's not clear for the public the distinction between real and artificial anatomy, but more they can put more the distinctions between themes: descriptive, normal, pathological, or compared. Maybe if we do that again, we can improve the questionnaire. So is this collection a collection for all people? So you can see the answers. We advise people against visiting under the age of 12 and pregnant women. The public opinion confirms our prudence. You see, the answer no by a majority, not for children nor sensitive people. Nevertheless, it remains an opinion, and it's difficult to approach reality. We can warn adult groups before the visit, and they are free to come or not. But who asks children? Apart from the sexual disease items, which imply to be over the teenage, might the other items be presented to children? Maybe their conception of life and death is different as ours, and their perception of the collection will be also different. The question remains unanswered here. So we have to do better with the survey from one part. We had difficulties to give the questionnaire to visitors when the student ended her internship. It reveals that we need that the reception team of the Faculty of Medicine understands better our work so that they will be more implicated in our actions. And we must adapt our questionnaire to the kind of visit, whether it's a visit by tourist office, more about history and architecture, and when it's our visit, it's more about collections, and not only history or architecture. So a challenge will be to create adapted mediation to accompany the visitors during the heritage days. Sorry. For a few years now, for example, we proposed guided visits for the Delmas Orfila Rouvière room, what was very successful. Every year, the groups are not empty, full, and it's a real success. And that is possible because this room allows only small groups, and we can do guided tours. Now we have to think at solutions for welcoming mass groups, 100 people during 20 minutes in the conservatory, and offer them a better experience of visit, because they make the line between 4 hours, and then they come to 20 minutes in the conservatory. There are 100 people, and it's very hot, and it's awful for them, I think. So we have to improve that and to welcome people better. Moreover, we found in questionnaires some general appreciations which sound very accurate. There are, for example, critiques upon the bad condition of conservation of the collections, the lack of order, or the lack of explanations text. We are totally aware of that, but there wasn't any solutions for a long time. The team is quite recent, and until now, we didn't have almost any storage rooms. So it was impossible to put the items in bad state in storage or to clear some full display cabinets. So now I would like to talk to heritage enhancement with several actions, what we do now. Exhibitions, loans to outside exhibitions, books, and 2020, the 8th century of the University of Medicine. Okay. A few examples of exhibitions. On the left side, you can see the poster of an exhibition which talked about all the university collection, and not only anatomy collections, but it was an exhibition about teaching collections. And it was des collections pour enseigner les sciences à l'université. It was, the purpose was to explain that it was teaching collections, not only anatomy, but all the collections. On the right side, du savoir à la lumière, it was a beautiful exhibition with beautiful things and items of all the university collection of all the city, not only scientific, but also fine arts and humanities university. And it was with a partnership with the city of Montpellier. It was like in French, we talk about a florilège. It was the best of the collections to show to people what kind of beauties in this collection there was. And in the center, you have a poster of an exhibition we made in 2014. It was a celebration of the First World War. And we studied the Faculty of Medicine during the First World War. It was an interesting work between archive, library, and collections in the same place. It was a real exhibition, and afterwards, my colleague of the archive department worked on online exhibition, and you have the address at the bottom if you want to go to. And for the anatomical collections, we exhibited some interesting pieces. For example, real anatomy, osteology, from human remains taken from the war by a surgeon, Professor Soubeyran, he was a surgeon at the war, and then collected some broken bones and some broken pieces of the skull. And it was interesting to exhibit that, even if it was hard to see that, because we had some pieces from the wounded faces in plaster cast. So we had the bones and the plaster cast to explain the surgery during the war and the maxillofacial surgery. And we exhibited too some waxes statues about psychiatry issues during the war. So thanks to a theme, it was an opportunity for us to study the part of the anatomical collection devoted to the theme, and then to restore, and then to exhibit, and then to not publish, but to put online, and it's quite interesting. And the fact that we worked all together, archive, library, and collection, was very interesting. Another way to exhibit collections and to explain the collection, or to show the collection, is the dialogue with contemporary art. On the left side, it's an example of an exhibition about anatomy and contemporary art. Several artists visited the anatomical collections, and then were inspired, or they exhibited some pieces of some works related to anatomy. For example, here the poster is taken from a work of art of an artist called Clara Castagnier, and Clara Castagnier is working on anatomical maps, and then she paints all over the maps to create other things. So it was interesting to do some this dialogue between anatomy and contemporary art. On the right side, it was not only anatomy, but all the collections, and then artists visited the collections, and then choose some items, and then put together their works of art and scientific collections. So we can look at the collection in another way, and they can learn, they can teach us other things with art. Some other examples. We loan to exhibitions, and it creates bridges between disciplines, between anatomy and history of art, and history, or in contemporary art, or in human disciplines, humanities. For example, on the top left, you can see the poster of an exhibition in Musée d'Orsay in Paris, Splendeur et Misère. It was about the history of prostitution in France, history and history of art, of course. And we loaned items, plaster casts of syphilis pathologies, the consequences of prostitution. And it was very interesting to cross the disciplines, art, history, and anatomy. On the bottom left, it was an exhibition in a Center of Contemporary Art in Montpellier, Anatomie de l'automate, about links between anatomy and recent creation in art. And you can see a painting of our collection from Paris. It's a painting by Chicoteau, who was painter and physician. So he had the two qualifications to do this work very interesting painting. And at the bottom right, you can see another écorché. This is the écorché created by Alphonse Lamy. It's an academic, it's a sculptor who was in the School of Beaux-Arts of Fine Arts in Paris, and he presented this work of art in the Salon in Paris in mid-19th. So it's more artistic anatomy than medical one. And this écorché was loaned to an exhibition in the Metropolitan Museum in New York about sculpture and color. It was called Like Life, and it was bridges between medieval art, anatomical or contemporary art, all disciplines, all times, and all about sculpture and color. So it's interesting to see the pieces of the collection in another context and explained differently with other looks. And on the top right, last year, it was a big, for us, an important loan, 25 objects loaned to Landerneau in Britain, in west of France, in a foundation, cultural foundation, private foundation, with an exhibition about the cabinets of curiosities. And you can see the eye in plaster is from our collection. So it communicates a lot about our collection. We were very happy that they choose our objects for the poster. And this exhibition had good communication. It's a private foundation with, with money. And it's a popular museum in Britain. And this exhibition was seen by 100,000 people. Well, so for us, it was a great opportunity to communicate about the collections. The paradox would be that the collections would be more known outside than inside of our university. But with what we call a boomerang effect, maybe it's a good deal. And some examples like that could be useful for us to defend the collections inside of the university. After loans, there are books. Thanks to the administration of the culture and Hélène Palousier, who created the collections of books. Every one of these books are online in PDF. So I don't have one because everything is online. It's very useful. The first one is about the Fontana collection and the restoration. The second one was published with the exhibition of the best of the university collection, du savoir à la lumière. And it's about all the university collections of Montpellier. And the third one is about Ozu and the collections of Ozu specifically. And the inventar, the restorations, the history of Ozu, and so on. So it's interesting for us to study an ensemble and then another, and step by step we can study not all the collection, but more and more about the collection. Waxes, paper pulp, and then syphilis. We studied syphilitic plaster casts and so on. And then now we celebrate the 8th century of the Faculty of Medicine. So this year there will be many events in Montpellier about that the thematics. in the city and in the university and in the faculty. Everyone is celebrating. And for us, for my team, we will do an exhibition about anatomical collection. It would be useful because we saw that the conservatory collection is not very opened. And on the contrary, the exhibition will be opened during 2-3 months, but free visits during the week. It would be free and open for people to see what they could see in the conservatory. So for us, it would be like a teasing of what they can see inside. We will do loans to the Museum of Fine Arts of Montpellier. We will do specific visits for students of the university. And we will organize anatomical drawing classes for students and university staff. And the drawing classes are beginning next week. And I am working on that subject with a colleague. She is working with an artist. I will do the visit of the historical visit, and then the artist will use an anatomical theme each time to present drawing technique. So it will be very interesting, an experiment, but maybe interesting. And to finish, I don't know the time. It's okay for the time? Wait. It's the end.
It's fine.
Fine? The museographic prospects. The Faculty of Medicine has benefited from the construction of a new campus, you see it, near hospitals, including advanced teaching spaces. The building, you see, was delivered during fall of 2017. So it's very modern, it's very beautiful. And this move of lessons in a new building, not total but consequent, freed up spaces in the historical building for us. This made it possible to devote, first of all, more space to the collection storage room. Alors, on the top left, you can see the storage room, but it was the boxes of Paris collection. So it's not perfect at all, and we want to improve it. And it's there since 2014, 6 years here. And we want to change that. So now we have around 700 square meters of storage rooms. We can now gradually unpack the Parisian collection, kept in cardboard in boxes, in new spaces, which we try to improve to adapt them to their new use. And at the bottom right, you can see a new room for fluid preparation and from step by step, we put from boxes to storage room, modern storage room. With these new spaces, we can also lighten the presentation of the Conservatory of Anatomy by making a selection of the most relevant pieces of a showcase and by removing some pieces in bad condition while preserving the initial museographic spirit. And you can see, I don't know if you see, but it's an example of reorganization of windows. Before, at left, and afterwards at right. And we did that with the OZU items. The OZU items were all over the conservatory and not very well exhibited. And we created a display case about OZU. And as OZU was good studied by us, we know that quite well. OZU pieces in paper pulp are easy for access for people, because it's paper pulp, it's artificial, it's beautiful, and it's a great, it's an entry for anatomy. It's easy to begin with. Okay. Alors, who are the players? The team. So the university team includes a collections manager. You can see it at the background. Angélique. We also work with interns, masters, and with external collaborators and researchers. I gave examples, but she is alone for that. And then there is an interesting room here. It's a former dissection room. It is no longer used by professors and students who have a modern hall on the new campus. This room could eventually be the subject of museographic thinking to present the teaching of anatomy with incursions to the anatomy of the living and new techniques of investigation of the human body. It's very impressive. It's around 300 square meters with 18 tables in marble. The tables are protected by heritage law, thanks to Hélène Palousier too. And, okay. So this is the plan, but it's a dream for now, but it's a plan. The project, the anatomy wing. I don't know if you remember the building. It's a bit complicated, but the spaces released by the move of a part of the Faculty of Medicine will allow better deployment of collections, more logical in terms of distribution in the historic building, with a wing devoted to anatomy from the basement to the second floor. Here is, in orange, you can see which spaces are for anatomy. So in the basement is a storage here. And then on the ground floor is a dissection room, you just seen. On the first floor, the anatomical gallery, the conservatory, and storage. And on the second floor, the Spitzner room and storage. So in one wing, we will, maybe, concentrate all the anatomical subject with exhibition rooms, storage rooms, and there is an elevator. It was the human body elevator before, but it's very practical for us to move pieces from the basement to the first floor. And we can welcome restorators to restore items. So it would be perfect like that. Maybe it's not enough space for welcoming all the collections, but it would be good, quand même. And then in green, it's administration of the Faculty of Medicine. There are nowadays some classes, not all because of the new building, but administration is a bit there, and there are congresses too. And in yellow, I don't know if you see, it's the library, which is very huge too. So with my colleagues of archives, library, and my colleague of anatomy collection manager, we try to think the building logically, to propose something logic to the university, so that they can agree with that project. But so the deployment of collection will also be more logical in terms of themes. The Conservatory of Anatomy, whose presentation must be modified in a subtle way, in order to respect the spirit of historical museography. The dissection room, which will allow the deployment of the anatomical collections, in particular the Delmas-Orphy-Larouvière collections. This presentation of historical collections will be accompanied by a section on developments in medical imaging in the 20th century and the development of living anatomy, which will make the link with medical news. And the current room, Delmas-Orphy-Larouvière, which can be reorganized just around the only Spitzner collection. In conclusion, if these perspectives materialize, there will be in the same place the respect of the Heritage Institute, the Anatomical Gallery, and the exhibition of the historical Parisian collections with the presentation of the latest developments in the teaching of anatomy up to the current techniques of investigation of the human body. In order that this project could be realized, it will probably take more time, especially to gather the funds. What you have just seen is still a work in progress, but this thinking is moving forward at the moment at the University of Montpellier, thanks to a dialogue between the vice chairman in charge of the historical heritage, the dean of the Faculty of Medicine, and various curators, my colleagues, responsible for different funds within the historical building. Anatomical collection, library, archive. And I hope that this year of commemoration of the 8th century of the Faculty of Medicine will allow a bigger communication about anatomical collections so that people and institutions understand better their needs in terms of preservation. Thank you. And